Welcome to Dynasty Debrief. Today, we're giving you 3 huge Dynasty buys and 3 huge Dynasty sells. Dak, give us our first buy.
Yeah, so the first buy is going to be Calvin Ridley, wide receiver for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Last year, he was wide receiver 18, 13.5 points per game is what he averaged. And right now, he's wide receiver 46 on Keep Trade Cut. We think that's just too low for Calvin Ridley, especially he's only going to be 29 next season. That's a full year younger, at least, than guys like Mike Evans, Cooper Kupp, Stephon Diggs that are tiers above him on Keep Trade Cut. And he had that production last season where there really isn't a reason for him to be that low other than I guess the idea like that the offense wasn't good last year for Jacksonville. He was inconsistent. He still had 6 wide receiver 1 weeks on the season, but then there's other weeks where he's putting up like 7, 8 points per game. And I think that's kind of a product of the offense just not being that good. And we think next season Jacksonville offense should be improved. Calvin Ridley is a free agent, so there's a chance he doesn't re-sign in Jacksonville. But if he does, that should be an improved offense. And if he goes elsewhere, I looked at his spot rack contract value, and he's valued at $17 million a year. So a team's going to pay him, and they're going to have to use him if they're paying him that type of money. So if I'm a Calvin Ridley owner and I'm looking to sell him, I would wait until his contract, until he signs that, and then his value is going to go way up. But I'm not selling him right now. And if I'm buying him right now before that contract, what he signs, because his value is going to go way up. So this is a great floor to go in and buy him right now. So Jeff, who's your buy?
Hey guys, real quick, make sure to subscribe and like the video. We're trying to reach 100 subscribers, and when we do, we'll be giving away a free roster review. Now, back to the video.
All right, so my buy low receiver, another receiver in a similar contract situation to Ridley, where he's a free agent, might get tagged, might re-sign. T. Higgins. Higgins is wide receiver 25 on Keep Trade Cut behind Zay Flowers, Tank Dell, JSN. Guys that just haven't established themselves as much as T. Higgins has in this league. Those are very good receivers, but I think that T. Higgins should be ranked ahead of these guys. He's proven that he's a great talent over the past couple of years in Cincinnati. He's likely getting tagged. That's the rumor that I've heard around the league. That's kind of what people are saying, that he's going to get the franchise tag. He'll stay with Burrow for at least 1 more year. If he leaves, yeah, his value will change, but I think he's really still a good receiver. This year, he only averaged 11.5 fantasy points per game. This could be attributed to his injuries, Joe Burrow's injuries. It was just a down year for the Bengals as a whole. You kind of have to look past it. He's only 25 years old. He averaged 15.8 fantasy points per game in 2022 in games that he played more than 25% of snaps. I say that because there was games where he was used as a decoy or they had him active and he played like a snap and he came off with hamstring issues, which brought his points per game down. If you don't really look into it and take a deep dive into the numbers, you won't really see that. I think that he's still worth a good amount. I would have him personally in the high teens as a receiver as far as rankings goes, and I would be willing to spend like the 107 on T. Higgins personally. So that's a buy low for me. All right, Dolan, who's your buy low?
My buy low is going to be another wide receiver. This one's Terry McLaurin, who's currently wide receiver 36 on Keep Trade Cut. Now, Terry McLaurin is someone that's been underrated in the league for years because of his terrible quarterback play that he has had. He has never had even average quarterback play his entire career. But he is a great talent. In the last 4 years, he's had 1,000 yards every year, still with the bad quarterback play, but he's found a way to still be consistent. The targets have also been there. Targets something we like to look at as dynasty managers because targets create fantasy points, right? So for the last 4 years, he's averaged about 130 targets. Now that is very good. And with the probable quarterback upgrade coming in, we think it's going to be Drake May. Those targets are probably going to jump, and they're going to be higher quality targets. So when we're looking at Terry McLaurin, we can see that he averaged 12.3 fantasy points per game last year. That's just not great. Like, that's very middling. And so when you're going to the Terry McLaurin manager, you can say, like, hey, like, they're probably going to look at Terry McLaurin's profile on Sleeper and it'll say 12.3 fantasy points per game. They'll be like, you know what? I can get rid of him. He's not going to do anything. They'll also see his age. He's a little older than you'd expect. He's going to be 29 next year. So they might be willing to get rid of Terry McLaurin for cheaper than you might even expect. But this is a perfect player that we want to buy because he has good upside next year, right? So if they get Drake May, I could see Terry McLaurin being a top 12 fantasy points per game type wide receiver for the next 1 to 3 years. He's a good talent, and with that quarterback upgrade, he could finally reach his full potential of being that top 12 fantasy points per game type of receiver. He's a player that we want to buy because we can get that elite upside for a cheap price. So 2 trades that I'd be willing to do for Terry McLaurin would be Christian Kirk and a third for McLaurin. That might sound crazy, but Christian Kirk is ranked like higher than him on Keep Trade Cut. I would do that in a heartbeat. Or you could do Debo Samuel for McLaurin in the second. I would do that in a heartbeat as well. McLaurin has a higher ceiling, and is just a better receiver than Debo Samuel. All right, so now on to the sell highs. Dak, who you got?
Yep. So we're going to transition to the running back position, our least favorite position on planet Earth, and we're going to talk about Javonte Williams, the running back from the Denver Broncos. Right now in Keep Trade Cut, he's running back 16, which is just an insane price point for him. This is a guy who's got 1 year left on his rookie contract, and then he's a free agent. And I don't know about you, but I don't expect the Denver Broncos to pay a guy who averaged 3.6 yards per carry, coming off an ACL, averaged less than 5 yards per reception. He was just terribly inefficient all last season. He wasn't scoring touchdowns. Plus, he's in a terrible offense next season. No good O-line, no quarterback as of now. The receivers are all right. Like, it's just a bad position next year. And then after that, like, where is he going in free agency? Who's paying him to be a starting running back? He just wasn't good. I could see the Broncos bringing in a running back this offseason in the draft, or they give Jaleel McLaughlin more touches, who was more efficient than him last season, caught more passes than him last season. And when you're thinking about running backs, you want guys that can catch the football. And Javonte, he's right around like 30 catches a year, which is just all right. It's not worth being the running back 16 on Keep Track Cut. He's just not that guy. So I'm not even looking to like tear down because it's running back, and that's not how we want to build a running back room. You just want to get rid of him. And I think even like as late as this season, there was people that were still in on Javonte Williams because he was a second round pick. He had that nice draft capital. They probably drafted him high in startup drafts last year, and he's still young. So I think he's still going for a first, at least, when I'm watching other YouTube channels and where other people have him priced. And then I took a look at Keith Trade Cut's trade calculator, and they have him valued around the 111 or 112. And you're doing that in a heartbeat. Like, if you can get Javonte and you add something like little small for a late first round pick, like, just do that instantly. Like, I just don't even think that's possible. That's realistic, but that's what Keep Trade Cut says. So maybe there's a cookie jar manager out there that goes, oh, yeah, Javonte Williams, he's 24. He's going to be the starter next year. Let me take him. Then do that. More realistically, people probably realize that, yeah, he's not very good, and you can get like a second for him. Do that too. Just get rid of him. So that's the rundown on Javonte Williams. Jeff, who's your sell high?
Yeah, my sell high is Tai J Spears, running back for the Titans. He's running back 14 on Keep Trade Cut. I think it's a little high for him in his situation. He had round 3 draft capital last year, which is not anything too bad, but not anything crazy special either. In other words, he's easily replaceable, or somebody could easily eat into his carries. There's no money really tied to him. There's no real high draft capital tied to him. Henry's most likely leaving the Titans. You saw the farewell at the end. People right now are thinking, hey, Tai J Spears might be the bona fide starter in Tennessee. And Tai J Spears, yes, he has the knee issue with his ACL in the past that could always repop up. But I'm more selling the situation rather than Tai J Spears himself. I really do believe that the Titans will bring in another player, whether via the draft or via free agency, to cut into that workload. I don't know Tai J Spears' size, if he can handle the goal line at 5'10", 200 pounds. Touchdown upside can be limited. I would sell him to somebody that's expecting him again to be the RB1 and take over the Henry type workload. I don't think it's in his realm of possibility. I think that there's going to be people that come in and compete for his carries. He did have a good year, but it's somebody that I would like to re-roll on. Again, similar to what Dakota said about Javonte. Tai J Spears is ranked ahead of Javonte on Keep Trade Cut. So, again, anything that starts with a 1, I would happily send Tai J Spears away for anything that starts with a 1.
Definitely.
Yeah, even any high seconds.
Yeah. Get rid of those running backs. You do not need them. Build it around a really, really young and elite asset at running back. And other than that, just get rid of them. Don't need them.
So lastly, is Brandon Aiyuk as a sell high. Now, before you freak out, it's okay. We're allowed to sell good players. So Brandon Aiyuk right now is wide receiver 11 on Keep Trade Cut. And some people on Twitter especially have him inside their top 10. And that's just really, really rich for us. He's a good talent. We get that. He's about to be 26-year-old, so he's not particularly young. He's also coming off a career year where he was only wide receiver 14 in the year. Like, it's good. It's not great. He had 1,300 yards on 105 targets, which is not a lot of targets. And if you look at Brandon Ayuk's career, he's not ever been like a high target kind of guy. He's always been around that 100 targets. And that's kind of a warning sign. We like to see those high targets because it means more replicable seasons. He was very efficient this year. He might be done in San Fran, which is something that people might want to buy him for, but also he could easily go to a worse situation. He might get more targets elsewhere, let's say on the Panthers. So he's not going to get that same efficiency that he got on the Niners anywhere else. The Niners like the most efficient team in the NFL. No other team's going to be able to replicate that. He had 18 yards per catch this year. That's really, really high and is way above his average in his career. He's usually around like a 13 yard per catch kind of guy. So the big thing with Aiyuk is we like the talent, we just don't like the price. So if you look at Keep Drake Gut, he's ahead of guys like Drake London. He's ahead of guys like Devontae Smith, like Jalen Waddle. If you can downgrade Aiyuk to Smitty or Waddle or Drake London and get a plus on top of those players, that is a perfect process move to just add value to your team while maybe getting a better player, right? So if you can trade Aiyuk for Devontae Smith and a second every day of the week, if you can sell Aiyuk for Drake London and a late first, because like some people hate Drake London, some people don't value first that much. Do that in a heartbeat. It's all about how your league values players. If your league values Aiyuk like some people do online, like people do on Keep Drake Cut, obviously, sell him and just sell high while you can.
Yeah, well, real quick about that too. Like, if he goes to another team, I think already like it's baked into his price that he's going to this other team and he's getting more targets. But like realistically, how much further can he go up? Like, can he break into that like Garrett Wilson tier with AJ Brown, those guys? Like, they're just he's not that talent. Like, it just won't happen. Like, I don't know. Like the fact that he could go to another team just isn't appealing to me because I think people are already expecting that and that's baked into his price. So we don't want to pay that.
Yeah, I like him, but like if he actually leaves San Fran, like I do trust in his talent, but there's also that risk that like those wide open things that Shanahan draws up for him is not going to be as easy on another team. And I do think that he can do that, but there was also a risk that like we've never seen him outside of that Shanahan offense, so you have to take that into consideration as well.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed. Check out our other videos, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.